if you are going to start something without conviction, you will not be able to stay in it long enough to see it bear fruit. Otherwise, I know friends who would switch every 2-3 months because something isn't working. But in reality, you gotta stick to it for 6 months, a year, just to really make sure at the end of the day, what's important is to be able to tell yourself that you've given it your all, right? Not that, the idea didn't work because one customer said, no, I don't want to buy it. You just keep going.
I think personal conviction is important because whatever you do, you will bound to meet tough times. You'll get challenged. And that's where if you don't love it enough, if you're not personally convinced enough, that's where you will stop. That's where you give up. That's where you reduce your time spent on it. So I think it's a problem that really find meaningful to solve.
One important thing just to add to that is I feel it is common to see that friends who might not necessarily want you to be successful because you feel like they're taking away from you, and because they are successful means you cannot be. Like, I just want to make sure everyone understands that there is enough for everyone, and when your friends succeed or your close friends, family, whoever succeeds, there is enough room for you to be there and make it as well. It's not a zero-sum game. It's an infinite game. And you just have to change that mindset.
And it's important to find an ecosystem to support your ambition, your aspiration. But for me, the ecosystem comes in the form of friends, right? And I think, I'm not saying this, but I think it's important to find like-minded people who would support your goals, your success. They don't need to agree with you, but you need to find that support system so that if you fail, you find challenges, it's important to keep you sort of on the right path and not give up.
Hi there. Thank you for being here with On My Own Terms. It's a podcast for the bold, the curious, and those at the crossroads of career and life. Would share it with a friend who needs to watch or hear this too. Do not forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, our socials, and wherever you're watching or listening this from. And if you're on your own journey of change, come check out the link in this episode description or show notes. That's where the free resources, newsletter, and stories live. Real change comes from taking action. Now, back to the episode.
Hey, I'm John, and welcome to another episode of On My Own Terms podcast. This podcast is about people who live their lives, who build and live differently. Today's guest is Kriang Khanijomdi, Shopify veteran turned founder. He's the CEO of PuppetVendors, a Shopify app that helps Shopify merchants turn their stores into full-fledged multi-vendor marketplaces. All this without the merchants ever touching or creating any line of code. Before this, Kriang spent years at Shopify, helping top global brands launch and scale online. Now he's on a mission to build PuppetVendors to be the #1 multi-vendor marketplace solution on Shopify. We'll dive into his journey from Shopify to startup, what it takes to build inside the world's biggest e-commerce platform, and how AI is shaping the way we buy, sell, and build. Let's get into it. Well, welcome.
Thanks for having me, John.
Kick us off. Can you walk me through maybe a 2-minute summary version of your career journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. My career journey, I believe, is a bit odd, not the typical corporate route that I've taken over the years. I started off as a web designer when I was 14. I built my first website for my tuition center when I first started, and my journey in the web world never ended. I did educated in renewable energy engineering, went on to start a startup out of uni, which is unconventional rather than jumping on the corporate bandwagon. Did corporate for the past 7-8 years now, and back to the startup world.
Nice.
With PuppetVendors, yes.
Very nice. For the audience, Kriang and I met when we were at Shopify back in 2022.
Yeah.
2022, 2023. Yeah. We became friends. I think we're friends. Yeah.
Yes. Eventually.
We now have monthly lunches, something I look forward to. And I must admit, right, when I joined Shopify, it's a bit of a fanboy. I've been hearing a lot about the product quality. I think the branding is also quite significant. And also, I've heard the management or the leaders talk about how they manage things at Shopify. So to me, all this made an impression for me. But you were in the Shopify ecosystem as early as 2017, right? Maybe for the people who are new to this space of e-commerce and Shopify, how would you introduce Shopify and introduce its role in e-commerce to all of us?
Yeah, sure. So Shopify, which I still explain my mom what it is today because she misunderstands it for Shopee, is essentially an e-commerce platform. It allows you to start your own e-commerce brand, your brand.com, where the front end and the back end is powered by a platform called Shopify. You don't really see it because you are shopping on a website that is powered by one. It's more of a back-end tool or an enabler in the commerce world, especially for anyone who wants to start their brand.com online and start selling their goods or items.
Hear of things like WordPress, that's like the blogging world and writing.
Yeah.
So how's like a Shopify different from a WordPress?
That's an interesting question. WordPress started off being a blogging platform, but then there was a plugin that was developed called WooCommerce that enabled the commerce capabilities on WordPress before Shopify came along. The primary difference is how they have come to be, in the sense that Shopify was built from the ground up for this specific purpose, and it's not an all-in-one platform that's trying to do everything. It was built specifically for online e-commerce stores.
Yeah.
That would be the primary difference.
And just let me add on, I think in this part of the world, we're in Singapore and Southeast Asia, a lot of us as consumers, we shop on, let's say, a marketplace like a Shopee or Lazada or TikTok shop.
Yeah.
So a brand.com is unique in the sense that it's not a marketplace. It's totally owned and managed by the brand or the manufacturer themselves. So the look and feel is very much controlled versus maybe a marketplace where there's a certain template
Yeah.
they need to fit themselves into. So that's one big difference I feel in this part of the world. And how big is Shopify in this sort of brand.com space? Just to give audience a context.
How big?
I know the answer, but
How big in what sense?
is it the market leader? Who are the other market players? And
Yeah,
that.
you know the answer, so it sounds like you're quizzing. But yeah, Shopify is the market leader, obviously, at this point. And competitors are players like Magento or Adobe Commerce, which was previously Magento. There is players like Wix, BigCommerce, but at the pace that Shopify is growing, the gap keeps widening.
Yeah.
From my personal opinion.
Yeah, I carry on this fanboy thing in me, right, about Shopify. And I just one more thing I want to add is that from my experience, you got all these competitors. Some of them focus on the bigger enterprise. Enterprise meaning like maybe they're making $100 million per year, the kind of scale. I think Shopify covers a big range, right? All the way from like solopreneur. If you're listening in, you want to start like a side hustle, selling certain things, your own caps or t-shirts. I think Shopify is a very popular option. And it helps you all the way scale up in the same sort of back end, all the way scale up to even IPO when you want to scale up to a $10, $100 million kind of company.
Yeah.
So I think that's also one of the unique things about Shopify. Yeah. Yeah. And you spend now about nearly a decade, right, in the building in the Shopify world, from Sync.io to your years at Shopify. Like looking back, what drew you into this ecosystem?
I stumbled upon it. I was trying to solve a problem I had. So back in 2015, when I joined like a marketplace called SE Collective, I did some good work with the CEOs and the founders and became part owner of the business, which was a multi-vendor marketplace, which after a decade connected the dot there. I stumbled upon it because I was building this marketplace and I was reinventing a lot of the things, like the basic components of any commerce business, like the coupon system, the login system, the card system. And eventually it got to a point, because I was the only technical founding member or engineer of the team, got to a point where all I was doing was the basic things. And it got to a point where we couldn't do that anymore to sustain a business. And Shopify came along in that way. Somehow we came across it and we decided to explore and open up that door. And we eventually migrated over to Shopify, and that became the platform of choice to run the business before it got acquired.
And can I ask, what's one principle you learned or you've gained at Shopify that's now like shaping how you now lead and do your own business?
I took a lot from Shopify. I think it's a corporate move that has grown me as an employee, as a person, as a person in general. As for running a business or leading a team today, the two things that I take away from all my time at Shopify is intensity. If you're running a tech business, you would know that the game has changed, right, today. And Shopify, even when I joined in 2021, was shipping at a pace that outran any competitor. Like even today, they're shipping even faster than they did back when I joined without AI in the picture, right? Or AI coding tools, all the available existing options. So shipping intensity was one. And
Hang on. Shipping is a word that I learned at Shopify. It's a word that's very much oftenly used at Shopify. But can you just define shipping?
sure.
It's helpful for audience.
I think this is very relevant for technology or software businesses when we define the term shipping. It basically means releasing updates or features on a regular basis compared to a behemoth company that would do it once a month, once every 6 months. Like Shopify would release like almost every day. I would find out that the company released new features on the call with the merchant because merchants would find out first sometimes because they are using the platform on a daily basis that way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because shipping could mean different things.
No.
So I
Releasing
the tech world,
features.
got it.
That would be.
So you mentioned intensity, right? In terms of shipping features.
And intensity, I picked up, it's on many things, right? When you learn shipping intensity is one example that I give. But if you were to bring it into your daily life, I also picked up this concept or a reminder from one of the pod that I've been listening to. It's about how you drive up that speed on your execution on a daily basis. Let's say for example, an example that I did recently in my business is a customer's reached out. Hey, be interested in
buying a business,
buying like the software that I run today. Can we have a demo, please? Typically, the flow would be, oh, here's the demo link. Please find a suitable time that works for you. But let's say if we try to switch that out, are you available now? Send you the link. Instead of waiting for the next 3 days where the desire to make a purchase of your software would have died by then, they would have lost that context because they're exploring your website today. What if you made that happen today? On the call, you do the demo. And instead of, oh, when are you looking to launch? Do you want to do it now? I'll help you set it up. In the same call, shortens out the amount of time from a hot customer or a warm lead to a customer who has already purchased in half an hour. You can make that happen instead of waiting downstream, right? This is part of that. So Shopify taught me on the product side, and connecting it to the different aspect of business is by doing these demos and customer conversions on the call, on the customer support chat right away.
When you said demo link earlier, you meant like a link to a video of the demo or actual call where you just demo live?
Yeah, it's more like a calendar link. That's what I meant, like a demo link or just scheduling a call to have a demo session.
Yeah. So intensity, high intensity, does it mean that you also push your team with high intensity?
Yes, my deadlines are unrealistic.
Like yesterday, right? So
yeah. My deadlines are unrealistic, but also I try to be accommodating where possible. But expectations are high now because if you are in a space where your competitors has funding, for example, your edge, what are your edge? Because feature parity from a software perspective, feature parity is something very easy to get to. You throw more engineers, you throw more AI tools, you throw more money into it, it can match, right? But what are your edge? What is your edge on being able to operate a fast-moving software business in the space at the moment? So intensity is what, for me, that's something that I use extensively to my advantage.
Besides intensity, what other factors you think is making or keeping Shopify on top of its game?
That comes to the second point. It's the extremely experimental culture and being open for the entire company to do it and to make mistakes and to share their learnings. For example, before I just left, I actually have been using all the Cursor coding agents since last year.
What's Cursor? Can you explain?
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Just to give you a bit of context, Cursor is the new generation of a text editor where software developers or engineers generally program and code. Cursor is just a new generation, one where you have AI embedded into the coder itself so that as a software engineer, you have like another junior engineer you can talk to, bounce ideas off, and develop features really quickly. And it's moving at a pace where we will eventually get to a point where you can just write your product requirement and it can probably get the feature done for you. And Shopify allowed us to use them on an unlimited basis to do our job. And whatever that may be, could be from writing content to software engineering to drafting emails. And we could just use every model available out there. And that was the most fun aspect of it. But imagine giving thousands of engineers or employees open access to everything. Just use it.
But was there any expectation from the company releasing or allowing these tools to be used by employees? Was there an expectation for you to give feedback? Would they call you or would they check on your work and find out what you're working on and ask you for ROI and all that?
It's hard to answer that because I wouldn't know.
Oh.
But I'm sure our usage was tracked if you're using it a lot or using it little.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I don't know, but
All staff or just
everyone was using it for their jobs.
Okay.
But I think efficiency and being able to do more work in the same amount of time would probably be a metric that could have been used, but hard to say.
at the time that you left Shopify? I think it's earlier this year.
No,
Earlier this year. You left Shopify
mid
this year. Yeah, earlier this year.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought earlier, way earlier.
How many manpower, how many staff now? What's the company strength?
I don't have number top of mind, but I think
10,000?
no, I think approximately
Okay.
around 8,000
Okay.
employees. With I believe that more than half our engineers.
Yeah, yeah.
The go-to-market team is fairly small.
I asked that because I want to contrast it with other companies or other enterprises where they could have similar company strength, but may not have the same attitudes towards experimentations. And I just wanted to ask, or I'm just curious in my head, what is making Shopify being so open, right, to all these things? It could just be a case where the staff are just abusing this privilege of using these tools to build things that don't really contribute directly to the business, but yet companies footing the bill of allowing all these tools to be used. I think that itself, we can unpack a lot of things behind it, right? And why Shopify can do that, have this philosophy, but not other companies. But at least I think the results show that Shopify is on top of its game in terms of a brand.com platform for merchants in the e-commerce world. And I think it's fascinating to me. Yeah.
To your point, I think the hiring process may be a big part, play a big part or really big part in this, right? The hiring process that Shopify has and who comes on board. And you've worked at multiple companies and you see your colleagues at Shopify, your colleagues at multiple different places, how they are, what the culture is, how they work, what kind of responsibility and the bar they hold. It keeps you up there as well, or if not, pushes you forward. I think that plays a big part in being able to open this up and know and trust that they will do and they will use it the right way.
Yep.
That's my thinking. I'm sure there are always odd ones and employees who would try different random things, but for the majority of it, I think everyone uses it for the right reasons.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that hire well and then trust them to do the right thing for the company.
What's your take on that?
Every time I talk about Shopify and my time at Shopify, and every time I say that, I think the big magical part about my experience at Shopify are the fellow colleagues. But people will say that, yeah, that's because you were from there, so that's why you say that they hire. But I honestly, I'm aligned with you that I think the amount of caliber or average caliber that I've met at Shopify, I think it's off the chart. I think it's super high. That's number one. Number two, it's also, besides they are good at and competent at what they do, they're also amazing human beings. Like, they have a personality, they're nice, they're kind, they're open, they're helpful, innovative, always willing to learn and share. I think that's also quite unique from what I experienced so far. Yeah, I was going to say that I think hiring well is tricky and every company defines it differently. That's number one. Number two, the second part about trusting employees, I think that's something that maybe a lot of companies can learn from.
That's the hard part, right? That's the hardest part, trusting that they will make the right decisions.
And I see this also with the context that Shopify, it's a public listed company, right? Yes, shareholders, and they'll be accountable every quarter, through results and share price and all that. But I don't see every other listed company practicing such philosophy.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that. I think I wanted to just unpack like your time, at least your experience about Shopify.
Good.
Yeah. I want to spend some time now on digging deeper into puppet vendors.
Okay.
Yeah. And this, for those who are new to this space, what problem does puppet vendors solve?
Yeah, sure. PuppetVendors helps you launch your own marketplace on top of Shopify. So think of your own version of Etsy, Amazon, Lazada, Shopee. With PuppetVendors and a Shopify store, you can have your own version of those stores. And you probably ask why.
For a start, explain the concept of marketplace. Marketplace.
Okay, marketplace.
Yeah. I can help you if you need.
Yeah, please.
No, I sometimes we're in e-commerce, so we assume everyone knows this basic term.
Yeah, okay.
But it can be different to different people. So to me, I define marketplace as a platform or a place where it's just like a market, right? Where buyers and sellers come. And marketplace would mean that there's more than one seller, more than one buyer. And building a marketplace, because a typical Shopify vendor, let's say we spoke about Allbirds earlier, is purely using Shopify to just sell directly to customers. And it's just one seller, which is Allbirds, using Shopify to sell. But a marketplace is a different concept where you use your app, correct me if I'm wrong, on Shopify to sell and gather other sellers and sell to multiple customers. Yeah. I think I'll provide maybe my own 2 cents.
Yeah.
So you mentioned about the problem. So you mentioned about time and space. And then one thing I want to talk about is maybe like personal conviction, right? Your personal conviction came from solving and having this problem yourself, and then you solved it. And I think my take to that is that I've been through career changes myself. Hence, I want to devote time to address this. I'm trying to create this sort of like content, talk to people like yourself. And these are things that I wish I had when I was considering major career change. So that's something that I experienced that problem, and I'm trying to find a solution. Number one, number two, because I was personally affected when change happened to me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to, that became my personal conviction, right? That I was personally affected, and I just wanted to help the old me.
Yeah.
Or people facing similar issues or crossroads or experiences. So that's for me. And I also want to say that I don't know where I'm going with this. I know with this like podcast, this content, I'm doing the best I can. For example, I spend a couple of hours just to get the questions right, knowing you, knowing our friendship, knowing your career journey so far. And sometimes hindsight is always 2020, but going forward, I don't know where this is going for me, and it's not always a perfect vision going forward. Then you jump on it. I just feel that if I want to I think about my best step at solving this problem that I face, and even there's zero monetary rewards for me in the end, I think the personal satisfaction is good enough for me. That's how I think about it. So that's my 2 cents about toying side hustles and product ideas. The last bit about, I think personal conviction is important because whatever you do, you will bound to meet tough times. You'll get challenged. And that's where if you don't love it enough, if you're not personally convinced enough, that's where you will stop. That's where you give up. That's where you reduce your time spent on it. So I think pick a problem that you really find meaningful to solve. That's
Completely agree. Because if you are going to start something without conviction, you will not be able to stay in it long enough to see it bear fruits. Otherwise, I know friends who would switch every 2-3 months because something isn't working. But in reality, you gotta stick to it for 6 months, a year, just to really make sure at the end of the day, what's important is to be able to tell yourself that you've given it your all, right? Not that, the idea didn't work because one customer said, no, I don't want to buy it. You just keep going. Yeah, you just gotta keep going, keep grinding. And if you do it, it'd be nice if you had a close friend to do it with. But obviously, it comes with all challenges sometimes.
Yeah.
So you got to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Quick pause. This is for those of you running a small or growing business. I see a pattern when I meet founders and owners of small and medium businesses, or SMBs in short. Their revenue is coming in, they're doing a lot of things. The business is working, with air quotes, but everything feels heavier than it should. They are busy all the time, yet progress feels slower than expected. That's rarely an effort problem, it's usually a leverage problem. So I built something simple called Scale Score. It's a free short diagnostic that looks across the core parts of your business: sales, delivery, positioning, systems, or even leveraging automation and technology, to show you where things are actually getting stuck. Most business owners are trying to fix symptoms instead of the real constraint. Once that's clear, decisions around tools, hiring, or even things like AI become much easier because you know where leverage belongs instead of guessing. If you're running an SMB and growth feels harder than it should, you'll find the link in the below show notes. No pitch, just clarity. All right, back to the episode.
I want to add on that success for me now is just not giving up. Like success, I equate success now as not giving up. I started this podcast 2021, 4 years ago. And then in the middle, I was impacted by Shopify's layoff and I paused it involuntarily because I really wanted. But then all hands on deck, I got to look for a full-time job and all that.
Yeah.
And I think now but I don't want to give up. I took a pause, but come back to it. I think it goes on to a whole thing about defining success differently and all that.
And it's very personal. It is very personal. You find your own definition of that, right? It's not what someone else's defines it for you. You don't use someone else's success metric and make it your own. You can use it to guide as a starting point, but then you have to figure out what is it for you.
And it's important to find an ecosystem to support your ambition, your aspiration. But for me, the ecosystem comes in the form of friends, right? Like you and Derek. Shout out to Derek. Hopefully you're watching or listening to this.
Better start watching.
And I think, I'm not saying it's a kiss or ass, but I think it's one to find like-minded people who would support your goals, your success. They don't need to agree with you, but you need to find that support system so that if you fail, you find challenges, it's important to keep you on the right path and not give up. And and that's the reason why I think I'm still staying in touch with Kriang. Very early on at Shopify when we met, we had our own lunch, and then you're telling me that, John, it's important to focus, right? Stick to one thing. And make sure that's that one thing, right? Like that one thing is that one thing. I remember that. And to be honest, I didn't mean to say this now, but at times I feel guilty looking back because along the way I pivoted slightly and I work on different things, and I feel sometimes embarrassed to talk to you on podcasts, and I tried different things, and I was like, sometimes every new shiny thing I was interested. Let's try this, let's pivot to this, and I want to monetize this and things like that. But regardless, I know that if I have an issue, I could pick up the phone, text you or call you, and you would spend me that time to talk through all these things. So I'm thankful for that. And I think for those watching or listening to this, I think it's important to find your ecosystem, find your support system. I think it's extremely important. Find people whose values are aligned to yours and grow together. I think that's important.
And one important thing just to add to that is I feel it is common to see that friends who might not necessarily want you to be successful because you feel like they're taking away from you. And because they are successful, it means you cannot be. Like, I just want to make sure everyone understands that there is enough for everyone. And when your friends succeed, or your close friends, family, whoever succeeds, there is enough room for you to be there and make it as well. It's not a zero-sum game. It's an infinite game. And you just have to change that mindset. I think that was one of the light bulb moments for me when I was younger, when I figured that out, that this was the truth, right? Just because your podcast is doing well doesn't mean that if tomorrow I start another one, it cannot be.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
I want to dive deeper on this one. This was meant to be in the later part of the conversation, but I'm happy to talk about it. My take on this is that I think it's a personal choice to take that view. The glass is half full or half empty, or the world is either zero-sum game, is either black or white, or it's an abundant game, right? It's an infinite game. I feel that it's a choice. But I want to ask you, what makes you so convinced that it's an infinite game? What experiences have you gone through to make you so fully convinced that it's an infinite game?
I'm convinced that is the game because I have been fortunate enough to travel to see the world, and that has opened up a lot of my mindset, I would say, and I would think so, where you would see the smallest of things become the biggest of businesses. Then there are things that you cannot unsee. And obviously there are life experiences that I've managed to acquire over the years. My work has opened up a lot of doors as well for me to be able to have that visibility. But if you look around you, there's so many, just an example, right? A quick one. There's so many bubble tea businesses in Singapore. Just something so relatable for you on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Just because a new one opened up doesn't mean the old one went away. It's just more options for everyone. And humans in general are open to trying new things. I like one brand, I keep going back. Doesn't mean that the other brand is not good. And we see new brands coming in all the time.
Yeah.
And they are becoming publicly listed companies.
Yeah.
And they weren't there ever. They just started they figured out their branding, their brand, whatever that is, and the different aspects of running and starting a business. That opens up doors to many more. But the point being that you can coexist in the same space, same category. Doesn't mean you might in a finite location like Singapore, which is fairly small.
Yeah.
You might argue that they might be competing. Yeah, they are competitors.
Yeah.
But if you look at a grand scale of things like a software business that can cater to businesses in 100 countries, there is no limit to that. There's no limit to that. And especially if you're looking at online commerce space, you know that the market is ever expanding. It's not, this is the TAM, the total addressable market, but the market is ever expanding based on whether someone in a remote area somewhere in the world has access to internet.
Yep.
And infrastructure becomes developed enough where items can be delivered to them. So it's an ever expanding market in itself. So once you have that view, it's very hard to unsee that. Does it make sense?
Do you think do you think this viewpoint comes from the lens of being in the tech, being in the software world?
No, definitely not. Because I recall specifically one experience in my previous corporate job before Shopify. I was in a room with one of the largest conglomerate in a specific country, and with one of the sons of the owners who would manage the investment funds. And when I was in that room, I realized from the conversation that the ceiling that we see are the ones we set for ourselves. The numbers were mind-boggling. I didn't even understand what those were back then. But it made me realize the people who you hang out with, the worldview, the mindset, and the experiences you can just capture from a good friend who is, let's say, 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead of you, is invaluable. And it opens up your mind in a different way. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but numbers that you cannot fathom becomes something that, okay, if I did this and this, I can probably get close to that. Just an example, but I don't mean that in that sense.
Yeah. A quote that comes to my mind lately is about the real competition is competing with yesterday's version of myself. I need to get better and better every day. And that's the real competition. That's my real competitor. I need to get better. Tomorrow I need to be better than how am I today.
Yeah.
And that's one way to frame competition. I feel that's helpful. As long as I put in my best, every single day I do better than yesterday, I feel that is a win. And I think that's one way to keep growing. That's how I would frame it.
Yeah, completely agree. If you ask my partner about this, she will probably say the same thing, because this is something I've been saying for the longest time.
Yeah.
Because if you look back where we are today, where we were 5 years ago, the things we would have dreamt of, we probably have everything that we've thought about today. If you think about it, go back, for anyone listening, think about 5 years ago where you were and think about what you have today. It tells you a very different growth story of a personal journey as well.
And I know in my mind, I just want to play it out, this scenario, right? To those who are not convinced about this infinite game. Like, we are friends, we're ex-colleagues, we're friends. You doing well in your business now, it's not going to make me poorer. You earn the additional 10,000, 28,000, it's not going to make me poorer by that 10, 28,000. But if you do well, you bring great stories, you share great stories, and I can draw parallels from your story, from your victories. People that you meet along the way in your success stories could be people that you could introduce to me for the podcast, for example, or I can learn from on how to do better podcasts or how to do a better podcast, for example. And there's no competition among friends or colleagues. You doing well doesn't stop me from doing better myself.
Yeah, not at all.
In fact, I will argue the opposite, right? That I grow better when my environment grows as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, as the saying goes, right? You are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. And that is absolutely true. If you're in a room where you're always the dumbest person, you'll become smarter. In a different room, when you compare that. But in that room, you will continue to absorb. We have this tendency to absorb things by osmosis, right? You just don't realize. And that is a lot that comes from our time at Shopify as well. Going back to that, a lot of things that I'm doing today, the sales processes, the cultural nuances, understanding top funnel, sales leads. I didn't even know what that meant when I was there. But now you stay long enough, you hang out with people doing that thing, you start learning and picking those up without having to ask questions. Now I'm using that for my business. Okay, what are the top level funnels? Where are the leads coming from? Who are my ideal customer profiles? How do I target them? And which markets they are in? So you start to absorb all of that from your daily work without realizing it. And then, now I'm using it daily. Figuring this out.
Yeah, it's funny because I am also applying the same things I learned at Shopify at my current day job. Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm thankful.
It's likewise.
Yeah, and I get to see, I benefit from knowledge of processes, structure, frameworks. And I think this can be applied to a different vertical, different domain, different company. And I'm using that now as well. So I'm thankful for that. And I want to drill you, right? And maybe just very briefly, what has been, since building PuppetVendors, what has been the toughest challenge so far? And how do you navigate around it?
I think the nature of the business, your customers come and go every day, some days more than others. That's been the toughest part. You feel bad, but how long can you feel bad about it? What can you do to fix that? There are always a lot of these things that go in your minds, like, oh, is it because the onboarding sucks? Is it the price is not right? Is it not the right set of customers? Is the copy wrong? There's so many possible angles and tangents you can go and try to fix them. But then at the end of the day, the thing that you can do is move one needle at a time. So you pick yourself up, move one needle at a time and see if it changes that direction, right? For example, at the moment, I'm figuring out onboarding and pricing. Will changing the price change this? Will it make the onboarding process smoother? And then this is from a strictly software as a service perspective. These are some of the challenges that I face on a daily basis and what levers to pull to make that number change, right? Figuring that out. But the hardest part has always been seeing customers say, sorry, we're not good fit. And they leave.
That to me, it's a hallmark of success, or it's a sign of you're doing something right. To be able to say that, to be able to choose your customers, to be able to attract the right kind of customer, I feel that is a luxury that a lot of businesses should work towards to have. Because you're not scripting for every single cent out there. And who is your ideal customer profile that you're serving, that you're working hard to ship features to serve them, and people who do not fit into that, then it's a sorry, you're not a good fit at this point. Right? Down the road, if you think it's a better fit, we're happy to serve you, or you move up a different plan, or from a free plan to something paid. I feel being able to choose your customer, being able to be insistent on your customer profile, I feel is a luxury, and I feel it's a sign of things going right.
I think it sounds good, but in reality, it's not that, because at the end of the day, you're running a business. You have ongoing fixed expenses. You have to pay your employees. You need to make sure systems are up and running. There are so many costs associated to that. How do you tell a customer, hey, please come back in 3 or 6 months? You try to hold on to them as long as possible, regardless of whether they're paying $20 or $100 or $200. They add up, right? You say one is okay, maybe what if it's 10? What if it's 20? Then you start going in thousands or more, right? Depending on the size of the customers. It's always a struggle and it's always a push and pull exercise that you need to figure out. But what has really helped with that is knowing exactly where you're heading, right? Is that taking a step back to see where you want to be in 6 months and a year has been the most important thing regarding this. You might lose customers today. What you aim for in 6 months or a year the alignment has been really helpful. But spending that initial amount of time to figure that out is the tough part. Because if you have the team is building things and all, what to build, why we're building it, and being able to articulate that in a layman's term where they understand, someone not in operating in the space understands what you're trying to do is hard.
That reminds me of the LinkedIn post you put up recently, right?
Yes.
Feeling clarity.
Yes.
Can you expound on that? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because operating such a business, we have competitors in the ecosystem. Customers come to us saying, oh, your competitor, they have this feature. Why don't you have it? Like, we don't have it. Like, it is what it is. Like, we don't have it. But being able to say, okay, you know what? We currently do not have it. We have it in the roadmap in 6 months. Would you consider exploring now? We can see how we can help you today as a workaround solution. Or I understand if you need to go to that competitor, it's okay because there is nothing I can do today. And I'm not going to bring it forward because it's going to save one customer. Being able to balance that and saying no has been the toughest and will continue to be the toughest thing that any founder, at least I think, would have to go through to be able to say no to certain areas of business and expansion so that you can be the best in a single field. And that's what I'm striving for. It might not be everyone's vision, but at the moment, that's where my mindset is at. It could change over down the road, but this is where I'm at.
So that's the clarity of the vision that you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
In that post. And how do you then countercheck if your vision is on the right path, it's the right vision? What do you do to get data points to help you support that vision?
It becomes very obvious, especially in the software space, the growth trajectory, the number of customers staying longer with you is a clear indication, right? But there are things that you need to make sure that your customers see the value in your product as soon as possible. So that's always something that you need to work towards. But having that clarity of vision and then work backwards from there is at least my approach, or has been my approach, to stir the ship in the right direction, right? And to make sure that everyone's aligned. So I have a monthly meeting now just to make sure everyone's aligned. I don't want to do the quarterly or bi-yearly session where engineers are on the ground working every day trying to deliver features, but they don't know why they're delivering or where we headed.
Okay.
So aligning on a monthly basis is what I do with the entire team, just so that they know where we headed and what we're solving for and why we're doing it.
Let's talk a bit more about, let's spend some time on talking about AI. I think e-commerce is a great industry where AI can be used to expedite certain things. And currently at PuppetVendors, how are you utilizing AI?
We're using it in many different ways, especially on the technical side, because it has become extremely good. So it has improved time to market for certain capabilities extremely efficiently. So I would say 20-30% faster on any, or quicker to market on any requirement capabilities. And not only that, we use on changelog requests. We have our team members who would help extract what has been released to announce it to our customers. How can we write it in a way that's easy to understand? But it's not just copying and pasting ChatGPT, hey, help write a changelog. So
What's a changelog?
Sorry, a changelog is basically a release note to announce to all your customers when a feature has been released. You would write a changelog. There are different approaches to different things. So I'm trying something different as well. But that's essentially the core of it. But there are things, once you start building a business, you have to start looking at brand alignment. You have to start using it. What are the words that is going to be used on the website? Does it align with the way you write on your other medium of public announcements? So you start making sure that you have a brand voice. Your brand is cohesive across the board and in different channels, from LinkedIn to website to these post announcements. Yeah, is now an integral part. And I'm trying the Shopify route and giving my team members full access, like a paid access, so that they can actually deliver on it as well, take full advantage of it without holding back. Because at the moment, let's say we ask these questions to ourselves regularly. I do that too, where, what if, I think this ties back closely to the question you asked me about Shopify giving access to everyone. where they might be paying X number of dollars, or I might be paying X number of dollars to support my team members to be able to use it on a daily basis. I think the right question to ask is, what if you don't give them? What is their capability? What would their capabilities be like? And you as a company, how far behind would you be to your competitors if they were using it? I think that's a much better question to ask. It's just like one of those where, oh, I don't think I want to send any of my team members to training, and they leave because you wasted all that money.
Yep.
But what if they stayed?
Yep.
And it's not expensive. You get access to so much for very little money.
I think it's more of a mindset versus the dollars and cents. The mindset of, I think your view is a bit more evolved in terms of, I like to use the word evolved because there's no right or wrong answer, but your mindset about like saying that what if these employees, your team, don't get regular training and they stay, or what if you don't give them the tools and they stay, or what happens when you don't give them the tools? I think not many employers or management think that way. So I think it's a mindset choice. And I think we're not here to debate what's right, what's wrong. I think it's about what fits the company and all.
And what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst? Let's say I have like the memberships or the subscriptions are $20. The worst you're going to lose is, let's say, 20 times the number of employees you have. That's it per month. And it's a fixed cost. Just take it as a fixed expense of $100, whatever. And then work backwards. Imagine if you lost that $100, it's okay. But what if they had access to a tool that allows them to be 50% more effective? That would increase your business value so much significantly that this is not going to matter in hindsight.
I wanted to also say the bigger issues or the more difficult things is not about giving tools, but rather two things. How do you motivate your team to use those tools? Right? Giving them is one thing, but how do you motivate them to use it and keep on using it? Right? That's one. And number two, how can we help, or how can you help your team members to better use those tools? I think these two, in my opinion, are the more tougher, more challenging questions. Because I can imagine in a different setting, maybe not in your industry or in your company, employees in big companies may have access to certain tools out there because the enterprise tool, right? But I'm surprisingly, when I talk to my friends at bigger companies or big companies, like the usage is surprisingly low. So that's a different issue. And I feel that changing human behavior is tougher than trying to spend that money to give them access to tools, in my opinion. But let me jump on next onto a bigger landscape. How do you see AI transforming how Shopify merchants build, sell, and serve their customers?
That's what it said. There's no right or wrong answer here. I feel with the advent of AI in the space, in the commerce space, it's going to be much, much easier for merchants to get started, which is a good thing. But I feel there are challenges which will change the landscape significantly in terms of how the catalog are discovered. I think the discovery game will change significantly.
Any more insights? I want a crystal ball.
No. I think it's just the discovery game. So historically, I would say that brands with deeper pockets will be able to get in front of customers easier if they have budget, obviously, for Facebook ads, Google ads. But with AI, it becomes more of a relevancy competition, right? So let's say you are trying to make a purchase for running shoes in Singapore. You try to search for it. Because of the context and nature of the system, let's assume ChatGPT in this instance, understands where you are typing from, probably have a proximity of which computer location you are typing from, and also all the available running shoes in Singapore. And not only that, it probably, based on your historical chat, depending on whether you enable it or not, it probably knows you better as a person of what kind of running shoes is relevant to you. So let's say a foreign company is trying to run Google ads in Singapore. How can the contextual side of it be brought up front? So being relevant and contextual in this sense becomes your moat, becomes your advantage. And selling or making sure you're advertising what you're selling to the right audience by writing a human readable description is the most basic form of getting it out there, right? Obviously, you'll have location variants that helps, but this opens up a lot of doors to artisans like brands, or let's say using puppet vendors to help sell because they're able to find the right set of customers and does not close them out to competition from larger brands with deeper pockets. Does that answer your question? No crystal ball, but just my 2 cents.
Yeah. We will leave the security issues of that. That's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah. In your opinion, what's one thing that AI can't do or replace?
From personal experience at the moment, you still need to think for it. They are an enabler at the moment. They help you achieve your goals, but you still set those goals. That's from personal experience. That's where I'm at. You still need to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
And what is your thought around it? This is a tough question, I think. What don't you think AI can do?
I'm not here to challenge you, but I think because I like that I'm giving information to ChatGPT so that it knows more of me, because I would prefer a more relevant answer. Like I said, maybe in this case, I'm one of those who prefer better answers over security. Yeah. I also feel that I can even give a prompt to ChatGPT to help me propose goals based on the chat I had so far.
Yeah.
That's one. But and to answer your question, I read somewhere and I've been quoting it, which is that I think what AI can do is having my experiences and having my relationships. And honestly, these are two things that I try to portray in the podcast setting like that. Knowledge and ChatGPT would win and then analyzing information at breakneck speed that I can never compete with. But my past experiences and how I contextualize my past experiences, how I synthesize this, how I combine this to give you a better advice or answer, I think that's something that I think ChatGPT can't do now. My past experiences. Maybe another clear example would be like, I've been an entrepreneur before, I've done my own business before, and now that I'm an employee. So combining these two sets of headspace could give me an answer that a ChatGPT can't give. It can't replicate my past experiences. And also people that I talk to and meet and having those trust and friendships and relationships, I think are things that I think AI can't do. Now what to do with that, I think that's a different question, right? But I feel that having a channel like this, I'm trying to build trust. I think with more, in fact, people tell me what I'm doing now is very dangerous because with AI, it's going to have this AI slop, right? All of content out there that's artificially. And in fact, maybe you and I may not even need to appear like that, right?
Yeah.
I send some questions, you answer it, record it on your own, and then we can synthesize it to whatever using AI. But that's one way of doing it.
Defeats the purpose, but yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. And I just feel that with more content out there, then there's a greater need for people to trust authentic perspectives, content, relationships, experiences. So I feel this is important. And I feel that I want to be a trusted source of maybe advice or perspectives for the audience. So I know there's a long answer to your question. And of course, the capabilities of AI, it's increasingly changes exponentially
on a daily basis.
So, but it's a good context to know that AI is a technology and how we use technology matters. If we use it as an enabler, I think that's the right way of thinking about it. Like my intention of doing this thing we do is to really provide a trusted source of perspectives for the audience. Technology, using AI to help me get that, yes, it's a tool, right? But do I want to let everything be done by AI? No. So that's one thing I think about it. Yeah, and I think in context of time, I also want to leave some questions to dig into maybe some of your reflections.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking at your career journey, you've gone from like a corporate engineer and now you're a startup founder. What is the biggest mindset shift between the two worlds?
I think the one liner would be now I'm the last line of defense.
Why do you say that? Tell me more.
Yeah, the business lives or die with me in the sense that I am fully responsible for it. There is no processes or anyone you can blame for the business to work on, right? It's very different where you used to be a cog in a well-oiled machine, very replaceable, and now you are the one person who decides whether the business works or not. And I feel that's a big mindset shift, a big pressure, but at the same time, depends on what you're trying to achieve in your life. I think it could be a big step jump for your professional career as well if you ever decide to go back, because rather than being so tunnel vision to doing your daily job, whatever that job may be, you have to wear so many hats on a daily basis. It could be, I enjoy being behind the screens and writing my code, but the reality of the business is I have to sell and meet customers, potential customers, and talk to them. It's very easy to go back to my comfort zone, but how do you push yourself so far out so that you get to a point where you try to avoid touching your code at all and make sure you're able to delegate? So there's a lot of skill that you pick up along the way, a lot of getting out of your comfort zone, and also even talking public, right? Meeting customers. Will they be happy with my solution? Talking to larger agencies that build Shopify websites.
And finally appearing on a podcast like this with me.
Yeah, this is my first one. And yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, or I have some anxiety on it, but to appear here, but it is something I have to do, and I have to push out of my comfort zone. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I want to
long-winded.
No, I think that's a good one. One of the key themes that I tell people is people hire skills. You can write a long CV, colorful CV, but potential employers look out for skills.
Yeah.
They hire for skills. And on this, what do you think, looking back at your time being an employee, what skills from those non-startup chapters have proven the most valuable now at PuppetVendors as a CEO?
You mean what
Skill
sort of
sets.
skill sets?
Yeah. That you picked up from your employee days that's now proving to be valuable. That you're glad that you picked up those skill sets up, where you're being paid monthly salary.
Yeah.
So that now you can utilize those skill sets to maximize and utilize your role now.
Yeah, there's so many things. One example, at least for me, because it's not something I enjoy doing, is coming on screen and talking to customers, right? Part of the job at Shopify involved me talking to customers on a regular basis, and they would be customers of all sizes, from an e-commerce manager to a CTO or CEO of massive businesses. And being able to be comfortable in those conversations and being confident has been one of the biggest one that I've taken away from it. And also being able to communicate with team members of different levels and manage up has also been something that I picked up on, and being able to navigate that.
I want to say this, right? This is a perfect time for me to say this. I've always liked the idea that, so in my career, I've always been much of the client-facing side of things. I do business development, I do sales, I do partnerships. But one thing that I like to do in working in a tech firm is to always connect the dots or bring, let's say, the back end or technical folks to meet the customers.
Yeah.
Something that I feel very strongly for, because some of these technical folks, they can do coding and they can be marvelous developers or whatever.
Yeah.
But I really want to see the impact of their work on the customers. I think I want to give that validation and the meaning to the work that they do on a daily basis, to see the expression, to see the gratitude, or even get feedback. I feel that helps. And for me, I like doing that. And I think it's valuable. And I think not everyone may enjoy that, meeting clients, especially if your product sucks. But I always like that. And for me, to hear you say that, I think I wish more people do that. Of course, not every company is structured that way.
Yes.
So that's one. I got some personal questions here besides those that I printed out that I prepared.
Okay.
I've been an admirer of your drive. I think you're one of the most driven people that I've ever met. What makes you so driven? That's part one. Part two, what's one time management tactic that you use on a daily basis? To start with, what's one key time management tactic that you use on a daily basis? Because as a CEO now, you do so many things, right? You wear so many different hats. And everyone has 24 hours. What's one thing or what's one key principle that you use on a daily basis on managing your time?
I don't think I manage my time well, but it's an ever evolving game and improving game. So you learn on a daily basis. I think one of the things I do well is that I give myself very short reflective cycle. What I mean by that is typically you would see that you would reflect on, how did I do this week? How did I do this month? How did I do this quarter? But what if you ask yourself, how did I do today? What can I change for tomorrow? That cycle change becomes so quick that you get to where you want to be very quickly, and you get to make the mistakes quickly, but you also get to correct them quickly. For example, if I didn't sleep well the night before, for whatever reason, I got stuck in work, the next day I make it a point, I have to sleep early. Otherwise, I'll feel worse, like just how I felt the day. That's my go-to approach that has helped me.
I think the reflective cycle can be used to exercise not just on time management, right? It's also on other stuff.
For everything,
right?
everything.
So I think making that time and space to this reflection, I think matters, and allows you to also change your behavior quickly as well.
Yeah, and these reflective cycles I have an exercise that I do the night before the next day,
Nice.
where I do my to-do list. And part of that is just figuring out what I need to do the next day. And then while doing that, you have enough time to figure out, oh, okay, today I didn't complete the task from yesterday. Do I bring it forward? Or maybe it's not important enough that I substitute it for something else.
Yeah.
So it's a mixed bag on that front.
We can leave that question about what makes you so driven to the next episode or the next time we do this.
Okay.
And also, I want to take this opportunity to also at this point tell the audience that if you have questions that you want to ask Kriang in particular, just put it in the comments, put it in the description, so that when we arrange the next one with Kriang, we're able to answer these specific questions from you. Okay? Maybe my last two questions, right? Number one is like, after years inside big tech companies and now running your own company, like what does living life on your own terms mean to you now?
I'm extremely grateful to be able to do that now. There are days that I wake up and I realize, oh, I don't have to report to anyone because I've been doing that for close to a decade. And I just smile and I just start my day whatever way I feel like. And for me, it's as simple as that, enjoying that. Doesn't mean that working for someone is bad. It just means that this is on my own terms. This is what I enjoy in this phase of life as of today. And I'm grateful for it.
Very nice. And my very last question is, how can audience reach you? Be it a fire merchant listening now or an e-commerce merchant looking to find out more about PuppetVendors.
Yeah.
Or someone who is keen, maybe looking at you as a potential employer, mentor. How can audience reach you?
Just LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good. Email is kriang@PuppetVendors.com. And LinkedIn, I think John will have his name in the description.
Yep. And also, I didn't tell you this, but right? When you scroll down and click on the description of this episode, you will also see a link for Shopify. So if you're looking to try to open a new or try out Shopify, selling something on the side or for full-time on Shopify, use that link so that you can get to experience the product. That's a free trial, I believe, for Shopify right now. So use it, play with it, find out how you can do it. And remember, right, every big brand that you see, they had a day one, right? And day one is not what you see of them now. Allbirds being listed, publicly listed, they did start like that, right? So every big brand you see now had that day one. And I think if you've been wondering about what could potentially be your next path, e-commerce could be a great way for you to start. And we couldn't recommend a better platform than Shopify for you to try it out.
And just to your point, you always regret not having started when you didn't start, right? And the next best day to do it is today.
Yeah. I have a lot to say about that, but we'll keep it for the next one. And I really urge you, the audience, if you enjoyed this episode, please share, put a comment in the description or the comments section. You really help us a lot to distribute or to bring this podcast and this episode to people that really need this. I thank you, the audience, and of course, Kriang. Thank you for your time.
John.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. As always, time flies.
Time flying by.
All the best for PuppetVendors, and we'd love to have you.
Yeah.